Hi, I'm Bridget, and thank you so much for joining me today for this deep full body yoga stretch. And this is a really great one if you've been moving a lot lately and you need to just slow it down a little bit, but also if you need to bring a little bit of movement into your day, this is perfect for that as well. So we're going to get started in just a comfortable seated position. So whatever that means to you, you might like to sit up on a block or up onto a blanket if you've got one, just so you've got a little bit more space here. So taking a moment to get comfortable, then we're going to bring the palms of the hands to rest on the knees, sit up nice and tall and begin to close down the eyes or just softening the gaze. So getting nice and tall through the spine. Imagine stretching out, so imagining one nice long line from the top of the head all the way down to the tailbone. And we'll bring the attention to our breath here. So deepening our inhales, slowing down our exhales. Checking in with the body here, checking in with the mind, just noticing how you feel. On your next exhale, see if you can drop the shoulders away from the ears a little bit more, relax them down the spine. Great, and then on our next exhale, you can keep the eyes closed here. We're going to drop the chin down towards the chest and then draw some nice big circles with the nose. So going one way, moving nice and slowly. And then back the other way. Take your time in any places that feel a little bit more tight, that need a little bit of extra love. And then when you're ready, we'll bring the head back to center and gently blink the eyes open if you've got them closed. And we're going to take it into a side stretch. So taking our right hand first, we're going to bring it beside us onto our mat. We're going to inhale the left hand up and over, stretching over to the right side of the room, maybe bringing a little bit of a pulse into that right elbow, just finding a little bit of a bend here. We want to keep that nice long line from the top of the head all the way down to the tailbone here. So rather than trying to really get into some sort of shape, we're going to stay nice and long and then find our bend. So it might mean that you're not bending as far over as you would like to, but you should feel that really nice stretch through the left side body here. Finding that pulse, but keeping our length. Shoulders are drawing away from the ears. You might find that you've got a little bit of room here. You might like to drop that elbow a little bit lower, maybe bringing it all the way down to the mat. Also, just being aware of that left hip here. It might start to want to lift away from the mat. We're going to keep it drawing down. And then finding your breath here as well. Those nice, long, deep inhales and exhales. Staying aware of the entire body as we move through our practice today. And then on an exhale, let's slowly bring it up and through center, and we'll take it to the other side. So we bring our left palm to the mat this time. Inhale our right hand up and over, reaching towards the left side of the room. You might like to give those fingertips a little bit of a wiggle. And then we bring that pulse into the left elbow. So finding that nice stretch for the right side body this time. And just checking in, keeping that nice long line again from the top of the head right down to the tailbone, so our shoulders are drawing away from the ears. Just taking a moment to check in with the body and set yourself up before we find our deep stretch. Pulsing through the elbow, and then maybe taking it a little bit deeper if you've got space. If not, just staying up here, find that pulse. So just being wherever you're at today, respecting your body's boundaries, And knowing that in time, you might be able to find a deeper variation of each stretch, but if you're not there today, just being where you're at. Letting go of expectations. And then let's come back to center. And from here, we're going to stretch our legs out a little bit. So we're going to find our half butterfly. So let's send our right leg out at about a 45-degree angle, and we keep that left foot in towards us. From here, we're going to inhale the hands up, nice and tall through that spine. Give the fingertips a little bit of a wiggle. Then we're going to turn to face that right foot and then round forward, drawing the toes back towards the chest, chest towards the toes. You can bend the knee as much as you'd like here so that you can get that nice deep stretch through the hamstring and relaxing the lower back a little bit here. Seeing if you can keep a little bit of length through the spine at the start here. Draw the shoulders away from the ears just for a couple of breaths. And then on an exhale, you can relax the head down towards the knee. Really round through the spine. Letting go and coming back to the breath. And then really nice and slowly, starting at the base of the spine, we're going to roll it up. Let the head and the neck come up last. Nice and tall through the spine again, and then we'll take it to the other side. So we'll take the left leg out at about a 45-degree angle, bring that right foot in towards you, and inhale. We get nice and tall through the spine, reaching up through the fingertips, draw those shoulders away from the ears, and then we turn our body to face that left foot. And on an exhale, we round it forward. Let the hands land wherever they do. And then draw the shoulders away from the ears. We're almost imagining as if the chest is we're trying to send it towards the toes and the toes are drawing back towards us. So you should feel a nice deep stretch through the back of that left leg here this time. And again, you might find a little bit of a pulse. The chest towards the toes. A little bit of length through the spine here. And then on an exhale, we'll let the head relax forward, round through the spine. Find those nice deep breaths here. One more breath here, and then nice and slowly, just like before, we're going to roll it back up to seated. So starting at the base of the spine, we roll it back up. See if you can let the head and the neck come up last. And then from here, we're going to take one more leg and hip stretch. So taking the legs out nice and wide, we're going to find our wide-legged forward fold. So the legs don't need to be straight here, just at a nice, comfortable distance out in front of you. And again, we're going to get nice and tall through the spine. You might like to take a few rolls with shoulders here. We're nice and active through the feet before we fold, so we're going to keep the toes up towards the sky and a little bit of energy through the knees, so almost like you're drawing the kneecaps back towards you. We find that nice length, and then on an exhale, hinging from the hips first, so rather than rounding forward, we're going to see if we can send our whole chest forward first. See if you can maintain that nice length through the spine for as long as you can. And then when you're ready on an exhale, you can round it forward. Let the head sink down towards the floor. Find your breath here. Staying nice and active through those toes. You might notice that your toes are starting to try and drop down towards the floor, so they're kind of rounding forward. We're going to see if we can keep them nice and active and up towards the sky, so pulling them back towards the wall behind you, if that makes sense. So just being at wherever is comfortable for you. So you might be up a little bit high, maybe finding a pulse. It can be helpful to find a little bit of movement in this pose too, until you find somewhere that works to you and you can find a few moments of stillness. Letting each exhale take you a little bit deeper into the pose. And we'll take one more breath here. And then on your inhale, let's start at the base of the spine. Slowly walk the hands back in towards you. Let the head and the neck come up last. And then we bring the legs back in. So you might like to bring the palms underneath the knees, draw them in towards you. And then let's just give ourselves a little bit of a hug for a moment. So drawing the knees in towards the chest, wrapping your arms around you, closing down the eyes. Just taking a moment for yourself before you move on. And then making your way into your tabletop, so onto the hands and knees. And we're going to find our wide-legged child's pose. So from here, we're going to bring the big toes together, walk the knees as wide as your yoga mat, and then sink the hips down towards the heels, reaching the arms out nice and long and letting your forehead rest on your mat. You might like to rock the forehead a little bit side to side for a little bit of a forehead massage. Maybe rocking the body a little bit side to side. Stretching into those inner leg muscles. You should feel a nice release through the lower spine here as well. Closing down the eyes. Coming back to the breath. Feeling the body expand with every inhale and soften with every exhale. Letting yourself sink a little bit deeper into the mat. And then really nice and slowly, we're going to make our way back into our tabletop. And we're going to find our puppy pose. So from your tabletop, noticing where your hands are on the mat, we're going to drop our elbows down so they're stacked right underneath the shoulder blades, seeing if you can keep the arms and the hands nice and parallel here. And we're going to start to walk the knees back and drop the chest down towards the mat. Coming to rest on your forehead. This should feel like a really nice stretch through the shoulders. You might like to walk the hands out, so come out of it and walk the hands into a little bit more of a V shape if this feels like way too much in the shoulders. Finding the breath here. With each exhale, letting the heart sink a little bit deeper down towards your mat. Breathing into the shoulders. Maybe looking forward towards the hands and coming up onto the chin. And then really slowly pressing into all 10 fingerprints, all 10 knuckles, pressing into those elbows. We come onto the belly for our Sphinx pose. So pressing down into the tops of the feet, nice and active through the knees. So again, drawing them up towards you. And then pressing into the elbows, getting nice and long through the spine again here. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. And again, see if you can send the chest forward. So almost like someone's wrapping a rope around the back of your chest and pulling you forward. Nice and long through the spine. Drawing the belly button up towards the spine. Find your breath again here. You might like to close down the eyes for a moment. And then on an exhale, let's come back down onto the belly and we're going to find our broken wing pose. So this is a really great chest opener. This is one of my favorites. I'm going to take my left arm first just so you can see it on this side, but either arm works. So I'm going to take my left arm out long. So from laying on the belly, left arm comes out beside you. And you might need to come out of this pose a few times and just readjust your arm to find something that feels comfortable in your body because it can feel quite deep sometimes. So arm out to the side. We're going to roll onto the left side of our body. You might like to bend that right knee, just step it behind you. And then you've got the right fingers in front of you to support you a little bit. You might like to reach the right hand up and over for a little bit deeper stretch. So staying here if this feels like enough for you, enough of a stretch. Otherwise, bring the arm into a 45-degree angle, and this is going to deepen the stretch a little bit. Again, you might need to adjust a few times. Just find something that feels good today. Breathing into the chest. So this should feel like a nice deep chest opener. Close down the eyes here. Find the breath. And we'll take one more nice deep breath. And then make our way back to center to take it to the other side. So I'm taking my right arm out nice and long this time, or maybe into that 45-degree angle. We're going to roll onto the right side of the body, and I'm just stepping that left foot behind me for a little bit more support. So take a moment to set yourself up and find what works on this side. You might notice that the side's a little bit different to the other. And then when you find your shape, just closing down the eyes, taking a moment. Sending the breath and the energy to that shoulder stretch, to the chest. We'll take one more breath. And then bring it back to center. So back to the belly, and then we'll find our child's pose again. So this time we'll keep the knees together, toes together, and sink the belly down onto the tops of the thighs, coming down onto the forehead, and swinging the arms Back behind you, palms facing up. Sending the breath along the length of the spine. Closing down the eyes, find that breath. Seeing if you can take the deepest breath you've taken all day. So a nice deep breath. And exhale, let it go. And take your time to move from here. If you would like to stay here for a little bit longer, then feel free to do that. Otherwise, we're going to come back into our tabletop. So take your time to get there. And we're going to open up through the legs and the hips a little bit more from here. So from your tabletop, if you've got some blocks nearby, it can be really good to bring the hands up onto some blocks here as well. But from our tabletop, we're going to step the right foot forward between the hands and find our low lunge. So pressing into the top of that left foot here and just feeling it out through the hips. So you don't want to be crushing into the lower back here and really rounding into it. See if you can flatten out. So that might mean just coming off that back knee a little bit more, so that you can round the tailbone down just to protect that lower back. So just feel what works in your body. You might like to bring the hands up onto the hips, resting on the knee or keeping the fingertips down on your mat. So just feeling this one out a little bit. You can find a bit of movement. And then we'll take 3 nice deep breaths in our low lunge. Making sure that we've got the space here to stay nice and open through our heart space. So if you feel like you're rounding forward, seeing if you can draw the shoulders away from the ears and then almost back together. That's why it can be helpful to have those blocks here. We'll lift the hands a little bit. And then from our low lunge, we're going to find our half split. So we're going to tuck those left toes under. So the back toes are tucked under. Bring the hands back to the mat if they're not there already. And then we're going to draw the hips back, roll over that right heel, and then draw those right toes back towards our chest, and then drawing the chest towards the toes. So we're nice and long through the spine again here. Finding the breath. You can keep a nice generous bend through that right knee. I really like to keep that nice bend so that I can get nice and flat through the spine, and I still have that really nice stretch through the back of that right leg. Find the breath here. Breathing into the stretch. Again, it can be helpful to have those blocks here. And then from here, we're going to take it a little bit deeper. So keeping those left toes tucked under here, we're going to sink the hips all the way back down. So now resting on that left heel. Rather than drawing the toes back towards us, we're going to point through the toes this time. Level out the hips, so making sure that that left hip is in line with the right, so nice parallel hips here. And then we're going to really round it forward, and this should feel like a really deep stretch through the front of that right leg here. So round it forward, just sending the hands out to either side to give you a little bit of balance. Come back to the breath. One more breath here. And then let's walk it forward back into our low lunge. You'll need to step that right foot forward a little bit here, and then we can untuck those left toes, and we're going to find a variation of our lizard lunge. So bringing both hands to the inner side of that right foot, we're going to heel toe, walk that right foot over to the edge and turn the toes out at about a 45-degree angle. We're going to come down onto the left palm and inhale, take a twist, reaching that right hand up towards the sky. And exhale, bring that elbow down for our lizard lunge. You might like to stay up on the palms here, otherwise draw that elbow down. We find our lizard lunge variation. So taking your time to get into this pose, make adjustments as you need to. You might need to turn that right foot at a different angle to feel comfortable here. And then finding a place that you can take a couple of nice deep breaths in stillness. Seeing if you can let go of any tension every time you exhale. Notice where the mind wanders off to. Checking in with the body again. Noticing how you feel. We're only going to be here for a couple more breaths. This can be quite a challenging pose. Can feel quite deep through the hips, but just seeing if you can stay with that breath. We'll take one more breath. And on an exhale, coming back onto the palms if you're not there already. And we're going to find our pigeon pose. So you're going to need to heel toe that right foot over towards the left edge of the mat this time. And then just adjusting the knee as you need to. So we're going to drop that right knee down towards the mat. You might need to bring that foot in towards you a little bit more. That's going to make it a little bit easier to get into the pose. And then if you need to make it deeper, you can just roll back onto that, onto your right glutes, and then bring the right foot a little bit higher if you need a deeper stretch. We're pressing onto the top of that left foot. See if you can get nice and tall through the spine here. So again, open up through that heart space, drop the shoulders away from the ears and draw them back together. We'll take 2 nice deep breaths here in our pigeon. And then on an exhale, let's fold it forward. So coming all the way down onto the forearms, round through the head, closing down the eyes here. And sending the breath to that right hip. Staying with those nice, long, deep breaths. And on your next inhale, let's slowly make our way back up. So coming back onto the palms of the hands and pressing to lift the chest. We're going to roll onto that right hip again so that you can pull it out from under you and come back onto your tabletop. So really take your time, moving nice and slowly. You might like to stretch the legs out behind you. Maybe take a downward dog here. So just stretching it out, maybe a couple of hip circles. And just really notice how you feel on the right side compared to the left side here after we've done that extra hip opening on the right side. And then when you're ready, we are going to take it to the other side. So from your tabletop, we're going to step the left foot forward between the hands this time. Find your low lunge. Again, give yourself a moment to just feel this one out. So pressing into the top of that right foot. Careful not to crash into that lower back. So you might need to come out of the stretch a little bit, tuck the tailbone under, and then sink back in. Seeing if you can maybe take a couple of rolls of the shoulders, We'll just lift the fingertips away from the mat for a moment. Breathing into our low lunge here. And then when you're ready, we're going to find our half splits again. So bring the fingertips back to the mat. We're going to tuck the right toes under and then draw the hips back, rolling over that left heel. Toes are coming back towards the chest, and we send the chest forward towards the toes. Nice and open through that heart space. Seeing if you can level out the hips here again, so making sure that left hip is in line with the right, so you might need to draw that left hip back a little bit more, bending into that left knee as much as you need to here. Finding the breath. And then on our next exhale, we've got those right toes curled under. We're going to sink the hips all the way back down to rest on that heel. Point through the left toes, and then we round it forward. Walk the hands out to either side to help you balance. Check in with those hips again, making sure they're nice and level. Again, you can keep as much of a bend into that left knee as you need to. Really pointing through those toes. You should feel that nice stretch through the front of the leg. Close down the eyes. Letting the head get really heavy here. And then nice and slowly coming back up, we're going to find our low lunge again. So step that left foot forward a little bit. Find your low lunge, and then we're going to find our lizard lunge variation. So bringing both hands to the inside of that left foot, we're going to heel toe that left foot to the left edge of our mat. Turn the toes out at about a 45-degree angle. We plant our right palm and inhale, reaching up with the left. Exhale, we bring that left elbow down to the mat. Again, you can stay up on the palms if you would rather stay up on the palms. Otherwise, we bring that left elbow down, calming onto the forearms. You can untuck those right toes if you haven't already. And then we find the breath again. Give yourself a moment to set yourself up. And then try and find stillness here in this pose. Using the breath to keep you here. This is a really good place to check in with not only the body but the mind. It's usually the mind that wants to take us out of some of these deep poses. But if ever anything feels uncomfortable, then know that it is okay to come out of it. But just seeing if you can stay with the breath. We'll take one more breath here. And slowly making your way back onto the palms. And we'll find our pigeon pose from here. So we're going to heel toe that left foot over towards the right edge of the mat this time. And then drop the left knee down towards the mat. Adjust that foot as you need to. So you might need to roll onto the left hip this time. Draw the foot in towards you a little bit more. If you need a deeper stretch, then take that foot a little bit further up the mat. Seeing if you can get nice and tall through the spine in your pigeon here, pressing down into the top of that right foot. Find the breath, drop the shoulders away from the ears. Nice deep breath in, and then on an exhale, let's fold it forward. Closing down through the eyes again. Getting really heavy through the head. Sending the breath to that left hip this time. Should feel a really nice deep stretch. Nice opening, release. Relaxing through the shoulders. One more breath. And slowly making your way back up. And you can roll onto that left hip and bring the right leg back around to meet the left. So coming out of it nice and slowly. Coming to a seated position for just a moment. Closing the eyes. Just checking in with how you feel. Noticing where the mind's at. And then really nice and slowly we're going to make our way to lie back onto our mat. So keep the knees bent when you get there. And we're just going to windscreen wiper the knees a little bit from side to side. So we've opened up through both legs, both hips here. You might like to take a couple circles here again like we did on the other side. Stretching out the legs, so just finding a little bit of movement here, checking in with how you feel. Feel through the body, noticing how the left side feels compared to the right side. Not judging anything, just noticing. And then when you're ready, we'll bring the knees back to center and we're going to take a reclined twist. So we'll send the left leg out long, hug the right knee in towards the chest, and then we're going to draw it over towards the left side. Send that right arm out nice and long. Seeing if you can keep both shoulders drawing down to the mat here, and then maybe turning to look at that right hand. So a nice deep stretch through the spine. Seeing if you can send the breath along the entire length of the spine. You might like to close down through the eyes again here. Finding the breath. And then slowly we'll make our way back to center. So unraveling. We'll send the right leg out long this time, hug the left knee in towards the chest, and then we draw it over towards the right side of the body. Send the left arm out nice and long, maybe turning to look at the left hand. Seeing if you can keep those shoulders down towards the mat here. Find the breath. Slowly we'll unravel, coming back to center. We will find our final pose, our Savasana. So sending the legs out long, maybe taking a little bit of space between the feet, hands come to either side beside you, maybe lifting the chest, drawing the shoulders down, and then relaxing back into your mat. closing down the eyes here. And I know that the mind might like to tell you here that it's time to finish your practice and just leave the Shavasana out. I know that sometimes I feel a little bit like that too, but I really would encourage you to stay in your Shavasana just for a couple of minutes, letting the body be still. We're just going to go through a quick scan of the body, so really checking in. So starting at the top of the head, noticing how you feel, sending your breath and your awareness to the top of the head as we slowly move down through the forehead, seeing if you can relax there a little bit more with your exhale, letting go of any tension through the eyebrows and the eyelids. Moving down through the cheeks and the nose, relaxing through the jaw, so maybe parting those back teeth a little bit here. Moving down through the neck, letting go of any tension that you might be holding through the shoulders, sending that awareness down through the arms, the wrists, and all the way out through the fingertips. And coming back to the chest and the spine, seeing if you can let go a little bit more here. And then moving down through the lower spine and the belly, seeing if there's anywhere you can let go a little bit more. As we move down through the hips and the glutes, noticing how you feel, maybe letting go. As we move down through the upper legs, the knees, the lower legs, check in with how you feel, seeing if you can let go a little bit more with your exhale as we move down through the ankles, the tops of the feet, the soles of the feet, and all the way out through the toes. I'm just going to leave you here in stillness for another couple of breaths, just knowing that you're exactly where you need to be right now. Letting go of anything that came before this practice and anything that you've got coming after. Just being exactly in this moment right now. And I'm going to leave you here in your Shavasana today. So you can stay where you are and stay in your Shavasana for as long as you would like to. Otherwise, I'm bringing the palms together at my chest. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. Namaste.